The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman.
Who's around me? I've lost my name, and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security, all because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Guiliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shaye, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen.
We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly, 18,000 voters having to do with Ruby Freeman. She's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler.
Of Ruby Freeman and Shaye Freeman Moss and one other gentleman, quite obviously, surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine.
Look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, you know, there's just, it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know.
If we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. We have at least two or three, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County.
Hello everyone, it's Queen V-Line back to you with another video. This video is an update as it pertains to the state of Georgia versus Trump and 18 of his co-conspirators in allegations that they were trying to overturn the 2020 presidential elections. There has been some new developments. In addition, I will highlight some co-conspirators of Trump. As previously reported, Donald Trump has been indicted with 18 co-conspirators in a nearly 100-page indictment with 41 counts, which ranges from the Georgia RICOAct, false statements in writings, influencing witnesses, conspiracy to commit election fraud, conspiracy to commit computer trespassing, conspiracy to defrauding the state, and perjury, to name a few. Each of the 19 defendants have until August 25th, 2023 at 12 noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It should be noted that the first GOP debates will be held on August 23rd, 2023. As previously reported, Trump is charged with 13 counts in the 41-count indictment, which includes the violation of the Georgia RICOAct, filing false documents and false statements and writings, to name a few. These new charges are tallied over 90 plus counts in 4 locations, which include Georgia, New York, Washington, D.C., and Florida. Before I get into the new developments and highlighting more of Trump's co-conspirators, it's best that I briefly explain the RICOAct on the federal and state levels. as it pertains to the RICO Act, which was passed in 1970 by Congress. It allowed the prosecution of all individuals involved in a corrupt organization. To violate RICO, a person must engage in a pattern of activity connected to an enterprise. The law defines 35 offenses as constituting racketeering, which includes gambling, homicide, kidnapping, arson, and bribery, to name a few. As it pertains to Georgia's RICO Act, which was adopted in 1980, it makes it a crime to participate in, acquire, or maintain control of an enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity or to conspire to do so. It's important to note that the alleged scheme does not have to be successful for a RICO charge to stick. An enterprise can be a single person or group of individuals with a common goal. At least 2 acts are required to meet the standard of a pattern racketeering activity, meaning prosecutors have to prove that a person has engaged in 2 or more related acts as part of their participation in an enterprise to be convicted under RICO. In Georgia, their RICO Act is considered a felony conviction that carries a prison term of 5 to 20 years and a fine of $25,000 or 3 times the amount of money gained from the criminal activity, whichever is greater, or both a prison sentence and a fine. Because the Georgia RICO Act is a state charged, it cannot be pardoned by any president. As it pertains to the new developments, it has been confirmed that Fulton County DA Fani Willis has asked a judge to set a trial date of March 4th, 2024 for the 19 defendants. DA Willis also asked to schedule arraignments for the defendants for the week of September 5th, 2023, according to a court filing, and proposes dates that do not conflict with the 19 defendants. This filing indicates DA Willis is seeking to quickly initiate the process of sharing discovery with all 19 defendants and wants to keep her word to holding a trial within 6 months. DA Willis asked the judge to give the defendants until 10 days after the arraignment to opt into reciprocal discovery. If they opt in, all parties shall serve discovery materials then in its possession to opposing counsel no later than September 29th, 2023. According to reports, some of Donald Trump's supporters have released the names and addresses of members of the grand jury that indicted Donald Trump and 18 of his co-conspirators on the 41-count indictment. These posts were made on a website that often makes violent rhetoric, with one user posting, "These jurors have signed their bleep warrant by falsely indicting President Trump." It should be noted that after a grand jury votes to charge someone with a crime, the presiding judge then releases the indictment in open court. When an indictment becomes public, jurors' name will appear on the document. In Georgia, they provide a form specifying the format of indictments, including a line to list grand juror's name. That's not the case in federal indictments, which sometimes include the name of the grand jury foreperson. In Georgia, grand jurors who are not present for a vote are crossed out. How each grand juror voted is not listed. The indictment, which was issued on August 14th, 2023, lists the names of the grand jury members, but not their addresses or other personal information. When news was released that these grand jurors' names and addresses were released, the Fulton County DA's office declined to comment. It should be noted that DA Fani Willis also faced racist threats prior to the announcement of the 41-count indictment, and additional security measures were put in place, with some employees being allowed to work from home. Let us continue highlighting some of Trump's co-conspirators. In part 1, we highlighted Sidney Powell and the Coffee County officials, Kathy Latham and Misty Hampton. In part 2, we will begin with Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows currently faces the Georgia RICOAct and the solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer. The reason why Mark Meadows is so significant is Mark Meadows was Trump's White House chief of staff. On August 15th, 2023, Mark Meadows filed court documents seeking to move the Fulton County case to federal court. In a 14-page filing, Meadows argued that these charges in the indictment pertain to his actions taken was while serving in the Trump administration. Now, let us highlight another co-conspirator conspirator. His name is Rudy Guiliani, as he is currently facing 13 counts in the 41-count indictment, which includes the violation of the Georgia RICOAct, 3 counts of solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, 3 counts of false statements and writings, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit false statements and writings, and finally conspiracy to commit filing false documents. This is important as Rudy Guiliani made false statements against former Fulton County election workers, Lady Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shaye. It should be noted that they have filed a civil lawsuit against Rudy Guiliani, in which he admitted last month that he did make false and defamatory statements about the former election workers. Though he stopped short of conceding that his statements caused damages to the mother-daughter former election workers, Guiliani also made a filing last month stated that he still wanted to argue that his statements about voter fraud in Georgia were protected by free speech. Guiliani still has to give an explanation to Judge Howell on why he believes he should forfeit the lawsuit. Following Guiliani's concessions, Judge Howell ordered him to pay more of Shaye and Lady Ruby Freeman's legal fees after previously ordering him to pay them $90,000. Now you will watch several clips which include Rudy Guiliani and Donald Trump attacking the former Fulton County election workers, Lady Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shaye, and I will be back with my final commentary.
In the day of Ruby Freeman and Shaye Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine.
I just got so sad. How dare you compare us to drug dealers? Oh, I was done.
We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly. 18,000 voters having to do with Ruby Freeman. That's she's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler.
I was like, really? You gonna call me out like that? And what are you talking about?
From the moment those videos went viral online, Ruby and Shaye started getting threats. Shaye said her Facebook was filled with messages from total strangers.
I have to admit, I looked at every single one. They were saying that I should be hung, me and my mom will die, and, you know, like, burning crosses. It's like a slap in the face, like, just very hateful things.
The threats escalated to the point that the FBI told Shaye and Ruby to to go into hiding ahead of January 6, 2021.
I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just out here. I feel homeless. I don't have nowhere to go. I don't know nothing. And yeah, I was just out there for a moment.
And what have we learned? That these co-conspirators, along with Trump, will use any tactic to hurting people who do not concede to their will, even if that means spreading misinformation, disinformation, aka lying on former election workers, putting out personal information on grand jury members because they want to keep the twice impeached, one-term grifter loser, 4 times indicted with 90+ counts. This is a pattern in which persons are willing to put their names and titles on the line for one person who could not take a loss. We are seeing persons who know better in positions of power trying to protecting this man and undermining our democracy in real time. A lot of persons are trying to downplay what occurred on 1/6/2021, in which persons got hurt in the process, emotionally, physically, and then some. If we, the people, do not see that Donald Trump and his co-conspirators, all of them, regardless of their titles, if they are not held accountable, then we as Americans can't check other countries when their political figures try to undermine the will of their people. I've said this before and I will say it again. If my vote and your vote did not count, why are persons working so hard trying to deny our basic rights to voting? This is not a drill. Persons are actively trying to strip our democracy in our faces, and they are trying to gaslight us on the events leading up to and on 1/6/2021. The guardians of Putin have proven time and time again that they do not care about the American people, and they will do anything to ensure that Donald Trump will be protected. What will we do as Americans if we do not hold these entities accountable for their actions of trying to deny our democracy? Every vote counts on each level. This is not the time to sit on the sidelines because elections have consequences. Elections matter. I thank you for watching. And as always, please be safe out here, and I will see you in the next video.